To answer question 26, we first need to define a couple of terms. So we're going to look at ANOVA. So ANOVA basically compares two types of variation, which we described before. It's comparing within groups and between group variation. So between group is how different the means are, and within group is how much individuals in one group differs from each other. So between groups, we're looking at multiple groups, and within groups, we're looking at one group. The F value, which is mentioned in question 26, basically is a value that tells us are the differences between groups big enough compared to the variation inside groups. So that's a little bit confusing, but basically it's asking, is it statistically significant? So the differences between groups compared to the variation inside groups. So is there a statistical significant difference between two groups, or can it just be put down to within group variation? That's a little bit confusing, but it's basically just comparing within groups and between groups, and then seeing is the differences between multiple groups different enough to say that it's statistically significant. So there's two types of F value. So there's a large F value and a small F value. So with a large F value, groups look clearly different from each other. So two group means, if we put them next to each other, they're clearly different. So for example, if one group mean is 50 and another group mean is 80, 50 and 80 are clearly different from each other. So when you look at the means, are they clearly different? And then the within group variation is small. So within the group, individuals within that group, there isn't a lot of variation between them. Their age is the same, their gender is mostly the same. There isn't a lot of variation between the individuals in that group. So in this instance, with a large F value and with these two conditions, we're going to reject the null hypothesis. So by rejecting the null hypothesis in this instance, we are saying that the two groups are not the same. Group with mean of 80 and group with mean of 50, the two of those groups are not the same. With small F value, the groups are similar. So if we compare it to a large F value, the group mean, they're similar. So we do 50 and 60 or 50 and 55, like they're similar enough. And then within group variation is large. So the individuals within one group, they're quite different from each other. So in this instance, we do not reject the null hypothesis, because we're saying then that the groups are the same, basically. So difference from rejecting the null hypothesis. So to answer this question, it's important to have a understanding of all these terms. So the main thing you should remember with this question is, if the F value is large, there is a high probability of rejecting the null hypothesis, and if the F value is small, there is a low probability of rejecting the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis in this instance is no difference between groups. So if we reject that, then we're saying that there is a difference between the groups. So in question 26, it states that within group variance is smaller than between group variance, meaning that the differences between individuals is small, there's not a lot of variance, but the between group variance, so the means between two groups or the scores between two groups, are different. So I have an example here. So if we put in the words large and high into this section here, so F value is large and probability is high, we're saying that group A has these numbers and group B has these numbers. So as you can see, the groups are far apart, like 50 is far away from 80, but each group within the group, each of the individuals are quite close together. So like 50 is close to 51, 80 close to 81, and so on. So in this instance, the F value is large and the probability of rejecting the null hypothesis is high, because we are saying that there is clearly a difference between the groups. So we are saying rejecting the null hypothesis that says there's no difference between the groups. So just to be devil's advocate and go to the other way, we're saying that the F value is small and the probability of rejecting null hypothesis is low. So group A is all these ones here, so the same as group A in the large group, and group B are these numbers. So they're quite similar. So the groups in this example are very similar, and the spread is small. So the F value then is small because there is a low probability of rejecting the null hypothesis. So the correct answer to question 26 then is large and high.